the AllThingsXR podcast, where you can get the best AR/VR analyzers from the biggest names in the field. Hi everyone, welcome to the AllThingsXR podcast. I'm Mojtaba. In today's episode, we have a conversation with Anastasia Devana, XR audio specialist and former audio director of Magic Leap. Hi Anastasia.
Hi Mojtaba, how are you?
Thanks very much. Welcome to the AllThingsXR podcast. Can you tell us more about yourself and what you do?
Yes. So, oh God, where do I start? So yes, I was up until a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago. I was working as an audio director at Magic Leap, and before that, I had a couple of other different careers. So I started as a developer, like full stack developer. I've done it for about 6 years. Then I decided that I've done all there is to do in full stack development and decided to become a full-time composer. So I pursued that career for about 3 years and done some work there. And that didn't seem quite like the right choice either. But then through that, I realized I can do both. I guess that's what I was missing. You know, when I was doing tech, I was missing creative. When I was doing creative, I was missing tech. So I ended up discovering video games and just in general, like interactive. So like, I can do, can use my tech skills and creative sort of sensibilities to do something fun and creative. And then shortly after that, kind of got into VR. That was around 2015. Yeah, 2015, where VR had like its most recent resurgence. Google Cardboard came out, and I think DK2 came out. So I did a couple of projects there doing audio, spatial audio. And, that was still, everybody was saying how it's the Wild West and all that. And, nobody really knew what audio in general. And it's still the case, actually. Yeah. I have now realized about 6 years later, it's still the same. So it's still fun. There's a lot of problems to solve and a lot of interesting things to do in the field.
Yeah, exactly. So what is a spatial audio? As far as I know, you are the person who coined the term, right?
No, absolutely not.
No?
No, I didn't coin it. No. So I actually don't know where the term was first used, but it's actually funny you ask, what is spatial audio? So for the last, 6 years, I was pretty certain I knew what it was. And I was pretty certain like it knew one thing that everybody kind of agreed on. But recently I realized that's actually not the case. So I posted a genuine question. Well, the way it started, right? The way it started is I saw the thing. I think it was Unreal, and not to call out Unreal or anything like that, but that's kind of was the impetus for the most recent conversation. But somebody told me like, Unreal has built-in spatial audio now. And I went on the website and I looked at the docs, and it sure seemed like it did. I'm like, that's cool. They implemented built-in thing. And then I talked to one of the developers who works there. And through that conversation, I realized that, well, they don't mean spatial audio the way I mean it. And then I put up a question on Twitter and I was like, okay, what do you people think when I say spatial audio? And I really got a huge range of responses. You could maybe pull it out. I don't know. All right. So yes, I put out this thread and asked, people on Twitter, what do they think when I say spatial audio? And turns out it's really all over the place. And even audio professionals actually don't agree on what it means. So let's see, what do we have? We have ideally 6 DOF, like 6 degrees of freedom audio sources, technology that permits locating a virtual sound source in 3D. We have somebody saying it's a marketing term, like 3D audio. Audio that exists in the space around us. I think of the binaural sound knob on Logic. Multiple sound channels. Digital replication of an audio source physically attached to a directional point in space. XR but focused on sound. And then there's some kind of a little more interesting ones. I'm trying to find them. I got well over 100 responses, so I'm just scrolling through them. Sound is simulated in 3D space. I don't think I'll find some of the more interesting gems. But so I think in general, people kind of have this sort of general idea what it is. But again, like the exact definition varies. But I will say that when I say spatial audio and what I do and what I think other people in this kind of like small niche do, when we say spatial audio, we mean, sound that is, oh my God, I'm going to have to write this definition. It's podcast, aren't I?
Yeah.
So yes, it's sound that is perceived to have basically a point in space around us, right? That's a very kind of general term. Yeah. And I think in this case, it does tie into XR in a way that it actually takes your position or your location or your rotation or a place in the world into account, right? So, for example, a binaural recording, the really famous barbershop recording that I think, a lot of people heard or maybe haven't heard, but if you go on YouTube and you just type in binaural barbershop, you'll hear it. It's very effective. It's a very effective recording because, yes, you listen to it and you hear, voices and sounds coming from all around you. Right, it's not just kind of a left and right like stereo panning, but I think it's an example of what spatial audio sounds like. But I wouldn't say that it is spatial audio. The way that recording was created is they had like a dummy head, basically a fake human head, and they had microphones in the ears, right? So basically they recorded the sound at the perception point, right, of human ears. That's why it sounds like you're there and you're hearing it. But when it breaks apart, if you listen into this and you turn your head, the hairdresser is still behind you, no matter where you look, which is not then respecting your own position in the world, right? Yeah. So to me, real spatial audio is recreating that same experience. So yes, you hear the hairdresser behind you and you hear different sounds around you, but as you move around and you turn your head, they actually respecting that, right? So you can actually turn to face the hairdresser. And there are different technologies to achieve that, but to me that is spatial audio.
So it should be interactive. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Great definition. So, you are the former audio director of Magic Leap. Can you tell us more about that? And what was Magic Leap's vision for spatial audio?
Yes. Well, I think the vision was really, really grand. I will say that, it was great to work there because Magic Leap did take audio part of the experience extremely seriously. And there were really great, really talented, kind of well-known people in the field working on the audio technology at Magic Leap. I think they understood correctly that audio is a huge part of of the experience, right? Of convincing the user who is experiencing virtual objects that these objects really exist in their world. I think without audio, it breaks apart. Without audio, it breaks apart, and audio has like a lot of functional, functional things that it does to help you kind of, sell that these objects exist in your world.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I think Magic Leap did right was have onboard audio. A similar fashion that we have onboard audio on the HoloLens or Quest.
Yeah.
I think that was a really great move. And then the team working on the audio algorithms was led by Jean-Marc Joe, who is a really kind of well-known, well-respected person in the field and really pioneer of the field of spatial audio. So the team was really strong working on all that stuff. Now, what my role was, I was leading the audio sort of content creation side. So my team created all the audio content for anything that Magic Leap basically created or published. So that includes the sounds for the actual device, right? All the UI user interface sounds.
Yeah.
And that includes all the audio for the first party experiences that the Magic Leap Studios put out. So we were doing, Magic Leap Studios was creating this kind of like best in class sort of showcase of what the hardware is capable of, and really with the eye for the creative. They weren't just like tech demos; they were standalone creative experiences. So we did all the music, sound design,
Mm-hmm.
voice implementation for that. And the other role that we're sort of doing is kind of being the audio product kind of co-owner for the roadmap for Magic Leap. So because we were the closest, like my team was really the closest to it, to creating audio for this medium and to actually working with the hardware and working with the SDK. So we were kind of first to see what needs to happen and what needs to come next and where are the gaps. So it was really working really closely with the algorithms team and the core audio team to build the roadmap and to plan for new, cool, shiny features.
Yeah. I remember the Game of Thrones and such projects, right? You are on those as well?
That particular one, no. That was a partnership sort of project, but we worked on Create, which came out, with the first sort of Magic Leap deliverable. Magic Leap OS when that first came out, Undersea, Pancake Pals, The Last Light. I worked a little bit at the beginning of Tanandi, sort of first prototypes. And then I also was kind of like doing just education, inside Magic Leap, like meeting with our partners, meeting with third-party developers, kind of like doing presentations, showing demos, just inspiring, other developers to like, okay, here's what can be done. And really trying to just advocate for the, the power of sound in this medium.
Mm-hmm. Great. So, if we keep using mobile AR for the next few years, will it be important in mobile AR as well?
So I think mobile AR is really a stepping stone. I mean, I don't know if everybody agrees with me, but going from where the Magic Leap device, I'm working on that for several years. Kind of now, after that, I'm doing freelance, I'm doing contracting. So I worked on a couple of mobile AR projects, and it's definitely like a massive like step back to me, and I really don't think that's the future, right? I think the future is the glasses.
Exactly.
So I think it's important, to start doing those things with mobile AR, just so developers like, gain those skills and start figuring out what it's all about. Like it is possible. it's maybe not as, practically, it may not be like as practical, especially if it's like more of a utilitarian, application. Because like if the person is not wearing headphones, they're not really going to get spatial audio experience. On some phones, like I think, the new iPhones that do switch into stereo mode when you put it in landscape,
Yeah.
you will kind of get a hint of it. You might get a partial sort of spatial impression, but it's really not meant to be listened that way. But I will say with the AirPods coming out, and I think other companies are starting to do the same. The headphones, they have head tracking. It kind of like changes the game a little bit because now you do have a head tracker, that
Yeah,
that you can tie
exactly.
sounds to. Yeah, because otherwise, you would be sort of assuming that your phone is the head, and that can create for some odd inconsistencies, right? Because if
Exactly.
you're looking straight forward, but you're moving your phone around, it thinks that like, oh, you're turning your head,
Mm-hmm.
while you're actually not, and the sound would change, but for no reason at all. I actually worked as an app developer on a game not a game, sorry, application recently. It's for University of Oregon, like new night campus that they just opened, grand opening. So we created with a company called eTribe, we created a mobile app which sort of combines some mobile AR and some 360 videos, 360 images. Because I was doing the development, I was like, hey, I'm putting spatial audio in this. so that one actually, has spatial audio with or without the headphones, but it also integrates with the head tracking on AirPods. So that's, and I think it's pretty effective. Honestly, like I jammed it in there like at the last probably day of the development because I was working on all the other features. But then when I added the head track and integration, it was like a noticeable change, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's subtle, like you can't like put your finger on it. Why is it different? But suddenly because it like ties so closely to your head movements, now you're like, oh, now it does sound spatial, as opposed to just moving my phone around.
Exactly. Mobile AR is just a window to the augmented world. So if we have, for example, AirPods, it will feel a lot more realistic.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So have you tried Apple's new AirPods Max? What do you think about them?
I haven't tried them. I think they're way too expensive. That's.
Yeah, there was
I
also
mean, I might.
support. Yeah, support the spatial audio.
Yeah, I might end up getting a pair just, for work kind of thing.
Uh huh.
But I think they're pretty overpriced, for what it is. Um, I mean, it seemed like the kind of the functionality is basically the same as in AirPods Pro. And for me, the selling part on the Pros is they are like small and tiny and lightweight and portable and all that. I'm also really picky on my kind of over the ear headphones
Uh huh. Uh
because,
huh.
just for comfort. So I'm not
Yeah.
sure. They might be comfortable. No, but I mean, obviously people are buying them, so they know their market. I'm sure they've done research before,
Yeah, for sure.
before putting the price tag on them.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm sure you've seen Apple spatial audio debates on Twitter, especially from my dear friend Robert Escobar. What do you think about that? And what do you think is Apple's vision for spatial audio?
Uh, well, I think not to name any names, but I think maybe some people are overreacting a little bit,
Uh,
or maybe uh, kind of hyping it up maybe a little more um, than what it is right now. I mean, I think eventually what some of the speculations are saying are not out of the realm of possibility.
mm-hmm.
I just don't think it's that close.
Uh-huh.
I think what Apple is doing is really just slowly introducing people to these concepts. through like one-off little offerings. Yeah, speaking of the thread where I asked what spatial audio what spatial audio is. I think a few people said like, oh, it's what Apple did on AirPods, and they think that Apple invented it. But no, I think it's good. They're getting the term out there. People are starting to at least hear the word spatial audio. Obviously, like everybody's really confused as what it is still. But it makes my job easier, and other people who work in this field that at least it's something people have heard of, and that we can continue educating. But no, I think it's no secret that Apple is working towards the AR glasses, and this is just one piece of that.
Exactly, the patents are there. Yeah. So, Anastasia, in the introduction of Facebook Project Aria, they also talked about spatial audio. Did you also see that, and what do you think about Facebook's efforts in that area?
So, I think I think it's great. I don't know, it probably is a contentious sort of topic, right? Because I think what Facebook research labs specifically wants to do and their aspirations are fantastic. It's like all those things that they're talking about, they showed in those videos, like they've been talked at magically, at length. I'm sure everybody who's working on anything augmented, I'm sure they talk about stuff like that at HoloLens. Like I know they've done sort of accessibility things. It is all possible, like detecting, basically like pushing the kind of computer hearing forward, right? Like we have computer vision already. What they're trying to do is they try to push kind of computer hearing where, we are also like altering, augmenting, understanding, segmenting sort of the audio world around us, right? Trying to not understand what you're looking at, right? Because again, we have computer vision and all the training where, AI can start detecting like objects and surfaces and, oh, I'm in a restaurant, but it's also possible to do all those things for audio, right? Because the more this device, this AR glasses, the more they understand what you understand, right? Understand the context and where the person is located, what are the noise levels, what are they hearing, like all that stuff, the more helpful is going to be. Right. And then you can do really cool things like what Facebook was showing in this kind of like concept videos, aspirational videos for audio. Now, there's the dark side of it is that means that you're given access to everything.
Yeah.
It sees everything you see. It hears everything you hear. It analyzes it and, it sends it to the cloud. It analyzes it. It like does like, deep learning on it. It like compares it to other people like you and all that kind of stuff. And, and like Facebook has not been like really great with data. So that part concerns me, that part concerns me for sure.
Yeah, I totally get your point. Yeah, exactly. So, as of now, thanks to devices like Oculus Quest, we are using VR mostly with wearables, but in AR, we are still using it mostly via mobile AR. So, can we say that the spatial audio right now is more important and more functional in VR than AR?
If you compare VR with mobile AR, I would agree. For the most part. I think there are really interesting applications even in mobile AR with spatial audio. But again, I think, once you start adding like head tracking into the mix, it becomes a lot more compelling. Even like navigation kind of stuff that, that reads your head pose and maybe has no visuals at all. That kind of stuff I think could be really cool, or creative applications, using, just audio sort of, storytelling or anything like that kind of like relies on your position in the world and space.
Exactly.
Yeah, these are kind of like emerging right now. I think now that there's becoming like more access to head tracking via headphones. But yes, in VR it's definitely, in VR, I think if you create a VR application, you have to have spatial audio. Like, I don't think
Mm-hmm.
it's optional. I mean, obviously you can do whatever you want, but it's I think it's just part of the part of a deal. I mean, you have 3D visuals that stick to their positions in space, so you need to have the same for audio. Otherwise, otherwise you're not like convincing anybody. It's going to be kind of a broken and just odd experience for people.
Exactly. Some of the futurists think that the spatial audio can also be quite interesting even without visuals, and may even be the first form of AR that gets popular among users. Do you think that a spatial audio has the potential to be used as a standalone medium? And if so, what are the use cases and applications for it?
So, um, it's probably funny coming out of an audio person, but I think I think there I think there are fairly narrow applications for it. Like, honestly, even working at Magic Leap, like the things that were the most compelling, the most effective, the most magical is when audio and the visuals are tied together and they're like match so well, like that you're just that's when you get like the wow moments, because then it's like, oh my god, this thing is there, it's making all these amazing sounds. If you just do audio, or if you just do visuals, it's not the same, right? It's just kind of a
Mm-hmm.
half of experience. And it's just one of those things where it's like, 2 plus 2 is not 4, right? Like 2 plus 2 is now 40 or something like that, I think the two working together, and once you start adding more, the more additional senses you can add to it, the
Mm-hmm.
more like it's kind of like an exponential growth, right? Because people are basically like computers, right? We have like input modes. We have the eyes and ears and touch, smell and taste, kind of like the major, our major like inputs. So as we go through life and we see things and we hear things and we touch things, we are creating this like models, right, in our mind of what the world is like. It's like, okay, this is a chair, right? Once you see a chair, once you see a chair like that you've never seen before, right? You still know it's a chair. You kind of like know how it's going to feel, or if you like knock it over, like exactly what it's going to do.
Yeah.
Um, so you're used to like getting these inputs and like kind of like comparing it in your mind to your like little computer model that you have in your mind, right? And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a chair.
Exactly.
But now if you like picked up this chair and threw it in the air and it was just like floating there, right? Or if you like dropped it but it made no sound, then you're like, okay, am I tripping?
Yeah.
Like,
What's
what's
going
happening?
on?
Like, this is
Yeah.
yeah, what's going on? It's a fake chair. So I mean, really, like now you get to like, how do we know what's real is real? Because this is the only way we know, right? We compare to like our expectations to what we're experiencing through our inputs, and if it matches, then it's real. Like we have no other way to tell. So once you're adding, okay, you see the visuals of this beautiful virtual chair with perfect lighting, sitting in your room. But if you like bump into it, and it doesn't make any sound, then it's like, okay, well, that's a fake chair, or the same with like physics or touch. So I think that's where like location-based experiences, are even like more like awesome opportunities to do stuff like that, because now you can add haptics, you can add like temperature, like changes in wind and like smells,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
hopefully good ones. But yeah, the more inputs you're getting that match kind of like your expectations, the more you believe whatever you experiencing is real. Which is, I think that's kind of like the ultimate goal anyway of all this stuff, is like, as I don't know if it's gonna end up being dark mirror or not, but with with AR and VR and everything, we do want to convince the user or person experiencing it that it's a real thing. Um,
Exactly.
yeah. So
Exactly.
I forgot what the question was, but it just went off. Yeah. Oh, you asking me about like audio only experiences, right? So that's why I was saying like it's audio only experiences are going to be as good as like visuals only experiences. So I think they're cool. Like definitely like accessibility. I think is really probably the biggest, most impactful thing that audio can be used for. Navigation and object description and things like that. Um, and I think there's definitely room for kind of creative storytelling experiences where things are like you're like maybe get a narration of some place that you're in, maybe like tours, I mean, kind of like
Yeah.
utilitarian things. But yeah, I think there's creative stuff, I think spatial music is interesting. Again, um, with like only head tracking without visuals, it's only going to get you so far. Like, I think spatial music is definitely kind of like, it is a jump. I feel, like there was a jump between mono and stereo. I think it's the same level of kind of like improvement from stereo to
Mm-hmm.
spatial. But again, like it's not like everybody's going to care about it, right? Because most people listen to the music on their iPhone speaker these days.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of a niche audience. Yeah, so there's definitely going to be people who will be interested in it and who will enjoy these experiences, but you know it's not like this big massive like revolution. I think it's still a stepping stone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. So, I think that we are living in the prime time of audio right now with the accessibility of so many platforms that are mostly only in audio, like, for example, Spotify. We are also in the prime time of podcasts. Do you think these mediums can leverage the use of spatial audio in the future?
I mean, I think definitely. So, like I was saying, for music, I know there's multiple efforts right now for spatial music. That's, that is interesting. And I think we'll get traction. Like I believe Sony is doing something.
Uh huh.
I think there's another, it's, I think there's another company that was kind of
Mm-hmm.
pursuing something similar. And for podcasts, I think it depends on the type of podcast. I think it's what spatial audio, might be good for, journalism. If you're trying to like kind of paint a picture of what it's really like being in a certain place, for setting the mood. If you're playing like, no matter what it is, right? If you're playing an ambient sound that is spatial, it's much more immersive. As much as I hate the word, but
Exactly, exactly.
but yeah, it definitely like takes it, a big step further. Um, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Also, some analysts think that Apple will introduce headphones with sensors like LiDAR, which can map your surroundings for using it later for augmented reality and also a spatial sound. How likely do you see that scenario?
I mean, lighter or baby, I don't know. I mean, those things are, having worked at the hardware company for a while, like I know those things can be, difficult because you're dealing with like size and processing and battery and weight, and might be pretty difficult to start putting more and more like chips and and processing into the headphones. But also I'm not a hardware person, so I don't know what like new breakthroughs are there. So maybe it is possible. Now mapping through sound, I think that is definitely something that I've, asked about many
Uh-huh.
times. We've had discussions. It's a hard problem. I'll just say that. It's not a straightforward problem. It's not so easy to do to map something with sound. There's both like hardware and user experience and like algorithm sort of issues with that. So I don't think it's like coming, next year to headphones near you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So, Anastasia, well, one of the reasons some analysts think that audio AR will find its place sooner than visual AR is because of fashion. Because doing fashionable headphones is a lot really easier than doing it on glasses. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Definitely.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, yeah. No, I can see that. I mean, we know that Facebook is doing sort of the glasses. Well, sorry, never mind. They're doing glasses now. Now I'm confusing glasses and headphones. But yeah, the glasses I'm pretty sure are going to be like audio only, like the first offering. At least I think that's what kind of they announced. So
Exactly.
it's still kind of like you know trying to repeat the failed Bose AR experiment.
Yeah.
Which I think Bose AR like we're thinking in the right, definitely like they're probably like you know um a bit frustrated right now because I think they had the right idea. Um, I think they just didn't know kind of like how to execute it or how to really sell it, how to you know what I mean, like
Yeah,
they're like,
exactly,
oh, we made this
exactly.
cool thing, but they didn't really know how to like sell it to people,
Yeah,
which is
because we
hard.
don't know. We really don't know how to sell these things, how to market these things. The market. We are at the very very early stages of AR.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Yeah, so like probably headphones, because like people already wear headphones, and people
Hmm.
already wear sunglasses. So I think that those two, and yeah, they are fashion items a lot of times or status items. So, I think it's easier to justify a higher price tag for something like that. And it is kind of like, opening up, starting to introduce um, AR to people in that way. Those are probably all smart moves.
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
and and you also and it benefits the company because they're collecting data, they're like training their models, they're like getting user experience feedback, they're seeing how people use it, they're seeing what developers make. So yeah, I think those are really smart moves.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the most important concepts in AR is AR cloud. How do you see the role of a spatial audio in AR cloud?
Now what do you mean when you say AR cloud? You mean like kind of like edge computing stuff or
No, no, no,
something
no.
else?
I mean the 3D map of the world where you can put your content, AR content with context on it.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I think it's essential, because and it can be approached in different ways, right? But I think if these companies are like mapping and creating digital representations of the real world, I think they have to do it also with keeping audio in mind,
Uh-huh.
and for recreating, because like every room is going to have a different sound, and it will, you know especially when it gets into like drastic differences, right? That like if you go in a closet and you clap there, or if you go into a giant auditorium and you clap there, it's going to sound very, very different. And that, of course, is affected by the size and the shape of the room and all the materials that are there. Um, so, so again, I think the aspiration is, if you put in a virtual character in a closet or an auditorium and they clap, that clap has to sound the same as if you and I would do that.
Exactly.
um
Exactly.
and then it's also a hard problem. Those are all hard problems for sure.
Yeah, well, we'll get there hopefully. We'll get there hopefully.
Yeah.
So, have you tried Foursquare Mars?
I'm sorry, which one?
Have you tried Foursquare Mars? It's their recent application which puts AR content in your geographic surroundings. So as you can find voice sounds on different POIs.
I have not.
Uh
No.
huh.
Have you? What is it good? What do you think?
It's an air kind of early stage kind of air clad for audio because it's got context, but it's far from having a spatial sound in AR cloud.
Yeah, so I guess what you're saying is like actually not just analyzing and storing like the analysis of the real world, but you're saying like actually storing content there, right? That would be then
Exactly.
kind of like display to playback. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a definitely legitimate use case. It could leave. I mean, when I started Magic Leap, all I wanted to do is just like leave a note for my husband, at the door
Uh-huh.
to remind him to take out the trash or something like that. I mean, it's so simple, right? But yeah, you could do the same with like little voice recordings. Uh, yeah, I think this, for sure, like audio content should be any different than, visual content. So yeah, you should be able to tie it to a space.
Yeah, exactly. So, Anastasia, so as for our last question, how do you see the future of spatial audio?
Oh my God. Um, I'm laughing because, well, like I said, before I joined Magic Leap, and when I did my very first project doing spatial audio for VR, um, I was figuring out which technology I was going to use,
Uh-huh.
and I did some research, and there were like a kind of a handful of these plugins out there. Um, and I was trying to find out like which one is the good one, and nobody knew anything. So I ended up like writing like a big article about it because I just wanted to test them and put it out there. So I even like created a Google Cardboard app where you could like listen to 5 different plugins, and I tested
Uh-huh.
them like the performance, and I compared features, and that was kind of like my big claim, my first big claim to fame in spatial audio. But they all were, they all sucked really. I mean, not sucked. Like there were some that were better than others, but it was really early, and I was like, okay, well, this will get sorted out. This is a good start. I was able to do spatial audio then, and then I was at Magic Leap, and now I'm back in the world, and I'm doing consulting and projects, and it's still the same. Now, some of the plugins that were available then were scooped up by big companies. And so if I'm trying to do a project that is kind of like cross-platform, there's
Uh-huh.
there's really almost nothing for me to use. Some of the stuff is like one platform only, and some of the stuff is broken, and so yeah. So it's still, it doesn't give me it doesn't give me too much hope, that now, 6 years later, it's still a big mess. People still don't know what spatial audio is. So so I don't know if if that's the answer you're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Um, so you know I I love working in spatial audio. I think it's fun. And it's interesting, and you can do like really cool things with it that you can't do otherwise. And and I could get to work on really interesting projects because of it. But I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna still be the same in 5 years, or
Uh-huh.
it's gonna become this thing that people finally get, and they finally respect it and put it on the pedestal and have amazing tools. But yeah, I just don't know. I don't have too much hope, to be honest.
Yeah, totally get your point because working in augmented reality, people still asking, for in marketing sessions and introducing the technology to enterprises. I still get asked what it is. If you don't have any samples with you, you show the video and a teaser of a product to them. They are still don't know what's going on, and that is
Yeah.
really, really, really strange at this time in 2021.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
But hey, we get to work on it, and we get to have our fun, and it's fine. I'm
Exactly.
okay with that.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, Anastasia, it was a pleasure having you on the All Things XR podcast. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.